Black Millionaire ordered coffee at his bar and froze. After hearing 3 words from White Waitress, Jonathan Reed, $6 billion founder of the upscale coffee chain Reed & Co., walked into one of his most successful branches wearing old sneakers, a thrift store jacket, and a plain gray shirt. He wasn't there as the owner today. He wanted to see with his own eyes whether the anonymous complaints of discrimination were true. He didn't have to wait long. "We don't serve people like that here," Lauren Miller muttered to another employee. Her voice sharpened with contempt but intentionally loud enough for Jonathan to hear. She didn't even glance in his direction as he stood quietly at the counter, hands in his pockets, waiting to order. Jonathan felt the words land like a punch. This was his shop, one of 62 stores he had built from nothing, pouring in his past, his mother's sacrifices, his entire belief in fairness and dignity. And yet here he was, treated like an intruder. Lauren's posture changed instantly when a white couple entered behind him. She flipped her hair, smiled, and offered them the full menu with cheerful enthusiasm. Jonathan watched silently as she ignored the fact that he had arrived first. He stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said. Lauren finally turned, her expression dripping annoyance. "What?" she snapped. Jonathan kept his voice steady. "Black coffee, large. We only take cash today." "System's down," Lauren lied, already assuming he wouldn't have the money. Jonathan knew every register in his empire was fully operational. He had just upgraded the entire POS network a month ago. "How much?" he asked. $12. The real price was $4.50. Jonathan pulled out a $20 without blinking. Lauren pinched the bill between 2 fingers like it was contaminated and tossed it toward the till. "No extras. No foam, no requests," she muttered. "To go." Evan, the young barista, hesitated as he worked the machine. He didn't look Jonathan in the eye, but Jonathan caught the flicker of discomfort, the look of someone who recognized wrong but hadn't found the courage to resist it. Jonathan watched everything. The pricing, the tone, the avoidance, silent compliance. Lauren eventually returned with a cheap paper cup, the kind reserved for rush-hour emergencies or bulk charity events. Everyone else in the cafe drank from porcelain cups with delicate saucers, gold-rimmed mugs, and branded napkins. That attention to detail was Jonathan's signature standard, but for him, he got none of it. No saucer, no napkin, no greeting, no respect. Jonathan didn't react. Not yet. He only wrapped his hand around the cup and made a silent decision. This location was about to become the biggest turning point of his entire company. Lauren barked the next order across the cafe, pretending Jonathan no longer existed. Jonathan remained still for a moment, letting the weight of what had just unfolded sink in. In his establishment, under his policies, carried out by people he had hired, trained, and trusted, the anger didn't make him shake. It made him cold, and with that coldness came perfect clarity. This would not end with a termination email, a lecture, or a polite warning. This would become an example. Jonathan stepped out of the cafe, pulled out his phone, and dialed a number. "James, downtown Reed & Co. Come now. Bring the legal team and the updated ethics and diversity enforcement files. We're done playing soft." There was no hesitation on the other end. James Peterson, Jonathan's closest friend since university, and the company's chief legal strategist, understood that tone. Something was deeply wrong. As Jonathan walked down the street for the first time since entering the cafe, a faint smile touched his face. Lauren had no idea she had just spit on the dignity of the man who signed her checks. But she would learn, and the lesson would leave a mark. 40 minutes later, James arrived. Tall, sharply dressed, carrying the assured presence of a man who had crushed corporations in federal courtrooms, he scanned the cafe through the glass window. "What are we dealing with?" he asked. Jonathan nodded toward Lauren, who was now serving a Latino family. "Just watch." What followed made James's jaw tighten. Lauren rolled her eyes at every question the family asked. She exaggerated her size, scribbled the order with theatrical impatience, and when the couple's little boy accidentally spilled a packet of sugar, she raised her voice. Some people really don't belong in refined places. Silence spread around the tables. The mother looked down, mortified. The father apologized as he cleaned in a hurry, his shoulders heavy with humiliation. They left without finishing their drinks. "Unbelievable," James muttered. She does this openly. It's systemic here, Jonathan replied. And it stops today. The memory of his own childhood flickered at the back of his mind. His mother, Elaine Reed, used to finish cleaning offices at dawn, only to be spoken to like she was part of the furniture. Jonathan remembered waiting for her in expensive lobbies, watching executives and receptionists sneer, dismiss, or pretend she didn't exist. She always said, "My son will never be ignored the way I am." That promise had fueled everything. At 19, Jonathan sold coffee from a battered cart outside Emerson University, waking at 4 a.m. while other students slept or partied. His first cafe was barely bigger than a closet, sharing space with a laundromat. But he built a brand on one principle. Every human deserves dignity on site, not after evaluation. For 17 years, Jonathan worked brick by brick, store by store, shaping Reed & Co. into a model for warm service and equal treatment. And now, inside one of his flagship branches, that principle was being shattered openly. Jonathan turned to James. "It's time," he said. "Not just to clean house. To rebuild the culture from the bones." James nodded. "Then let's go in." Reed & Co. employees were trained to do more than serve beverages. Jonathan had designed his company culture so that every customer, regardless of race, income, accent, or clothing, was treated as the most valued guest of the day. The staff handbook opened with a line Jonathan had written by hand 15 years earlier. "Respect is not selective." But now, watching Lauren degrade customer after customer, Jonathan felt a deep violation, not of rules, but of purpose. She wasn't just mistreating people, she was poisoning the very foundation he had built. "She's done," James said calmly beside him. "With what I just saw, we can terminate her immediately. Zero legal risk." Jonathan shook his head slowly. His stare remained locked on Lauren, who was now laughing with another employee, mocking the diversity of customers who had been coming in lately. "No, firing her today changes nothing," Jonathan said. "She'll get hired somewhere else next week and repeat the exact same behavior. I'm not interested in removing her. I'm interested in exposing her." James narrowed his eyes. He recognized that tone. Jonathan only sounded this way when he was about to turn a problem into a calculated turning point, the same tone he had when he rejected multi-million-dollar buyouts, when he expanded against industry giants, when he chose autonomy over shareholders who wanted to dilute his mission. "What are you planning?" Jonathan pulled out his phone and opened a folder of screenshots. He handed it to James, Lauren's Instagram. Photos and short videos while she was on the clock. Selfies in uniform. Captions dripping with hypocrisy. "Serving the right kind of people today. High standards only. Ties are work vibes. Elite customers." James scrolled. His eyebrows rose. "She actually documented this?" "At the exact same minute she overcharged me and denied me service," Jonathan replied coldly. "She records her prejudice like it's a personality trait." Jonathan shut the phone. "I want more. Not just screenshots. I want a full picture of who she is and what she stands for. I want her behavior recorded, cataloged, undeniable. When this ends, there will be no misunderstanding narrative. No excuses. No backpedaling." Just then, Lauren walked up to an elderly black couple, their hands intertwined, their movements slow and gentle as they studied the menu. Jonathan and James watched in silence. Lauren tapped her pen against the table. "Well, it's a cafe, not a library. Order something or stop holding up the space." The elderly man looked up, startled. "Young lady, we're just—" "If you don't know what you want, maybe come back when you're prepared," she snapped. "We're not here for sightseeing." The wife reached for her husband's hand. "Let's leave," she whispered, her eyes glistening with humiliation. Jonathan's jaw clenched. That could have been his grandparents. People who had already fought their entire lives to be treated as equals, reduced again by someone who hid cruelty behind a uniform. "James," Jonathan said quietly, his voice steady but burning. "Yes?" "Hire a private investigator. I want every detail about Lauren Miller. Work history, online footprint, inner circle, everything." James hesitated. "Jonathan, that's a heavy step." "Too heavy?" Jonathan shot back. "Too heavy is what she just did to that couple. Too heavy is charging me triple because she assumed I was ignorant. Too heavy is humiliation served as customer service." James nodded slowly. Understood. I'll get the best. 3 days later, Jonathan sat in his Los Angeles headquarters, a 40-page dossier in front of him. David Rourke, the investigator James had hired, flipped through the pages as he summarized. "She documents her prejudice publicly," David said, tapping a series of printed posts organized by date, platform, and topic. "Honestly, Mr. Reed, she's created a trail so clear it could be case study material. She doesn't just discriminate, she brags about it." Jonathan leaned back in his chair. Good, she had built her own rope, and he intended to let her hang herself with it. Jonathan turned one page after another. Each screenshot was uglier than the last. Instagram photos of Lauren with hand-picked white co-workers, captioned with phrases like, "working with people who understand true class." Facebook posts praising so-called quality patrons. TikTok clips mocking accents. Hairstyles and clothing styles of customers who didn't match the brand image. It wasn't ignorance. It was ideology, and she was proud of it. David cleared his throat. "There's more. Lauren runs a private WhatsApp group called Elite Service Circle. Through an inside source, I infiltrated it." He slid over a tablet. Jonathan put on headphones and pressed play. Lauren's voice filled the room, laughing, boasting, instructing others on how to drive away undesirable customers without getting in trouble. Strategies ranged from delaying orders on purpose, fake system issues, inflating prices to establish economic barriers, giving disposable cups instead of porcelain to signal status. Jonathan closed his eyes for a moment, not out of weakness, but to anchor his fury. James walked in with 2 coffees. "How bad?" he asked. "Worse than anything we imagined," Jonathan responded. "But screenshots and voice clips aren't enough. I want her caught in real time, in full clarity. I want undeniable evidence." David hesitated. "Then you should know this part too. Lauren isn't acting alone. At least 4 employees follow her lead. The ringleader with her is the shift supervisor, Jennifer Walsh." That name hit Jonathan harder than he expected. He had hired Jennifer personally. She had shaken his hand, looked him in the eyes, and sworn she believed in universal dignity. Now she was leading discrimination inside his flagship store. James set his cup down sharply. "That means coordinated misconduct. Legally, this becomes a discrimination network inside your business. It's not just fireable, it's prosecutable. And personal," Jonathan added quietly. "Very personal," David continued. "They also use an internal code, certain letters in the register to signal who should be overcharged, who should be denied certain items, and who should be filtered out." Jonathan inhaled slowly and deliberately, calm, controlled, strategic. "I'm going back in," he said. Not as Jonathan Reed, as the same customer they think they can step on. "And this time every second will be recorded." James frowned. "Send someone else. If they recognize you, that's exactly why it has to be me." Jonathan cut in. "She chose me as her target. Now I will give her the rope to finish the job herself. Then I'll pull it tight." 2 hours later, Jonathan wore the same humble clothes as before, but this time with hidden recording equipment. A micro camera disguised as a shirt button, an audio transmitter in his backpack. David and 2 operatives entered separately, taking seats around the cafe with devices of their own. 3 camera angles, 3 witnesses, 1 trap. At 2 p.m., Jonathan stepped through the door of Reed & Co. Lauren stood at the counter with Jennifer, joking about weekend plans. Lauren spotted him first. "Look who's back," she muttered loudly. Jennifer smirked. "Guess that overpriced coffee didn't do the trick." Jonathan approached the counter, steady, calm, and fully in control. "Good afternoon," he said. The trap was now officially live. Jonathan lifted his eyes toward the counter and spoke with calm politeness. "I'd like an Americano, please." Lauren exchanged a smug glance with Vanessa before answering. "Of course. We actually have a premium promotion today for select customers. $15? Jonathan tilted his head slightly. "Interesting. Did the price go up since yesterday?" Vanessa stepped forward with a syrupy, condescending smile. "Inflation. I assume you understand basic economics, right?" From 3 tables back, Ethan Ward kept his camera steady, capturing every smirk, every gesture, and every flash of arrogance on the women's faces. He had to restrain himself from reacting. Jonathan paid the $50 without a single objection. His eyes watched Lauren's fingers as she entered a code into the register, the same code Ethan had already flagged as part of their special protocol. Lauren reached for a cheap paper cup. "To go, I'm guessing," she said dismissively. "No," Jonathan replied evenly. "I'll drink it here." Her expression tightened. "Our seating is reserved for customers who order full meals." Jonathan looked around. At least 6 tables were empty. "I see plenty of open tables," he answered. That irritated Vanessa. She stepped closer, arms crossed, voice cold and clipped. "Sir, if you're not ordering food, I'll have to ask you to free the tables for paying customers." At that exact moment, a white couple entered, ordered only 2 basic coffees, and sat wherever they pleased. Lauren greeted them with warmth, offering porcelain cups, dessert options, and her best customer service smile. Jonathan watched it unfold. Blatant, unfiltered discrimination, so obvious it was almost cinematic. It was the kind of arrogance that writes its own ending. He lifted the flimsy paper cup. "Thank you for the lesson," he said calmly. "I'll remember this experience." As he walked toward the door, he heard Lauren mutter to Vanessa, just loud enough. "Some places just aren't for some people." At least he figured it out. Outside, Jonathan removed the hidden mic from his collar. In under 15 minutes, they had gathered enough material to burn down the entire discriminatory system. Video, audio, timestamps, everything. Ethan joined him moments later. Voice low but charged with anger and triumph. "We got it. Clear footage, clear audio, clear codes. This is airtight." "Not finished," Jonathan replied, already dialing. Edward Shaw answered on the first ring. "How did she play it?" "Exactly how we needed," Jonathan said. "Prepare the legal packets. And call PR. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. we shut this culture down publicly." Jonathan glanced back through the cafe window. Lauren and Vanessa were laughing, clueless that they had just destroyed themselves. He finally allowed a confident, controlled smile. "She wanted to play games with rules," he murmured. "Tomorrow, she learns what happens when someone who wrote the rules walks into the room." The next morning, Downtown Brew is shut down for an emergency meeting. Staff gather. Lauren is confident. Vanessa is smug. Jonathan is about to reveal who he really is. The employees of Downtown Brew gathered inside the closed cafe at 9 a.m. sharp. 17 staff members filled the room, whispering theories. Some looked nervous. Some looked excited. But Lauren Miller stood at the center as if she were the star of the day. She flipped her hair and whispered to Vanessa Clark, smug and grinning. "This is definitely a promotion announcement. I told you they recognize excellence." Vanessa chuckled. "Maybe they'll put us in charge of training. God knows this place needs standards." They laughed, confident, relaxed and completely unaware that in minutes, their careers would be ash. At 9:03, the door opened. Jonathan Reed entered in a sharp charcoal suit, followed by Edward Shaw, Operations Director Ethan Ward, Internal Investigator Dr. Patricia Lang, Labor Rights Attorney. The room fell silent. Lauren's smile faded first. Vanessa's followed half a second later. Jonathan stepped forward. "Good morning. My name is Jonathan Reed. I am the owner of this company." A visible shock hit the room. Some employees gasped. Others froze. Those who had treated customers with fairness suddenly looked relieved, even proud. But Lauren's knees nearly buckled. Vanessa's face drained of color. Jonathan continued, voice level but cold. "Over the past several days, I conducted a personal investigation into the workplace culture at this location. What I discovered is unacceptable, unethical, and illegal." He clicked a remote dice. A projector screen lit up. Slide 1, Elite Service Society, WhatsApp group. Lauren's own words were displayed in huge, bold text, visible to every pair of eyes in the room. "We don't cater to people who don't fit our premium image. Delay them. Overcharge them. They leave faster." Employees stared in disgust. A few stepped back from Lauren as if she were contagious. Jonathan turned to her, voice still calm. "Lauren Miller, you founded and led this group, instructing staff on how to discriminate against customers based on race and appearance." Lauren's lips trembled. "Mr. Reed, this is all being misinterpreted." Jonathan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Silence. He clicked again. Slide 2. Photos of Lauren taking selfies during work hours while Jonathan, disguised, was being overcharged at the counter. "This," he said, "is you charging me $15 for a $4.50 Americano, inventing a fake promotion, lying about store policy." The room went dead still. Employees stared. A few shook their heads. Evan Cole, the barista who had hesitated days before, murmured under his breath, "Unbelievable." Jonathan turned to Vanessa next. Vanessa Clark. "As shift supervisor, you not only allowed this behavior, you enforced it." He clicked again. Slide 3. Screenshot of the premium protocol codes. Vanessa had trained others to apply. Codes that automatically added charges only to select customers. Vanessa tried to speak. But Dr. Patricia Lang stepped forward, cutting her off as she removed a document from her folder. "Before either of you attempt to defend yourselves, let me clarify the legal situation," she spoke clearly, so every employee understood. Under U.S. civil rights law, a business owner not only has the right, but the legal obligation to investigate discriminatory behavior. Evidence collected in a public commercial space, video, audio, and digital logs, is fully admissible in court. Lauren's eyes widened with horror. Vanessa's hands started to shake. Jonathan pressed play on a small speaker. From the recording, Lauren's voice filled the cafe. "Some places just aren't for some people." At least he figured it out. No one breathed, no one moved. The words hung in the air like poison. Jonathan looked at the two women, calm, steady, unblinking. "You built a culture of discrimination under my roof. Today, that ends." Jonathan pressed a button on the projector remote. The cafe fell silent as Lauren's voice echoed through the speakers. "Some people should learn their place. If he wants to sit here, he can pay extra for the privilege. It keeps the wrong crowd out." Jonathan paused the video and faced the room. "This recording was made yesterday, during the second time you tried to humiliate me. You believed I was just another powerless customer, but I was watching, and I was documenting everything." Vanessa's face turned pale. Lauren stopped blinking as if her mind had crashed. The room watched in stunned disbelief. Vanessa broke first. Her composure shattered. "Please, Mr. Reed, I can explain." "There is no explanation." Jonathan cut in, his voice steady, controlled, and absolute. "There are only consequences." Ethan Ward stepped forward, placing a stack of official envelopes on the table. Lauren Miller. "Vanessa Clark, you are hereby terminated for cause, effective immediately. Your conduct violated company policy, federal civil rights laws, and basic human decency." Lauren shot to her feet, her arrogance flaring in one last frantic attempt to reclaim control. "You can't fire me like this." "I'll sue you for harassment. I'll tell the media." Jonathan stepped closer, his presence overpowering. "You're going to tell a judge what, exactly? That you created a secret code system to overcharge customers you profiled, that you enforced discrimination to control who was welcome here, that you mocked, humiliated, and exploited the very people our business serves?" Her mouth trembled. No words came out. Dr. Melissa Grant spoke next, calm, professional, lethal. "Systemic discrimination of this nature can result in multiple civil lawsuits from each affected customer, federal penalties, and depending on documented intent, criminal charges for civil rights violations." Vanessa collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Her hands covered her face. Lauren remained standing, but her confidence had died. Only fear stood in its place. Ethan handed them both their exit paperwork. "Your personal belongings will be boxed and mailed. You have 10 minutes to vacate the property." The two women packed in silence. No attitude, no excuses, no power left to hide behind. Jonathan turned to the remaining employees. "You witnessed today that discrimination has no shelter here. Some of you stayed silent, but you will not get silence from me. You have a choice, grow or go, because this business will never again be a place where bias thrives." Evan Cole stepped forward, relieved. "Mr. Reed, I never agreed with what they did. I just didn't know how to stop it." "Now you do," Jonathan replied. "And from today forward, you'll have a confidential system to report anything like this. No retaliation, no fear, no exceptions." As Lauren and Vanessa made their walk of shame out the back exit, Jonathan felt no triumph, only justice. They hadn't been destroyed by revenge. They had been undone by their own behavior. The poison was finally out of his cafe, and for the first time in months the building, once tense and fractured, felt clean.